Okay, continuing forward. Someone was asking me about the text that talks about the levels and layers. It is in the mind-stealing Tripura. It's in the Tripura Rahasya. Tripura Rahasya. This was one of Ramana's favorite texts. So you might want to read that, Tripura Rahasya. It will talk about moksha. It will talk about those that have had a glimpse, can talk about it, but the mind has rerouted, therefore they are not true liberated beings. And what's the difference? Okay. Tripura Rahasya. Tripura Rahasya. But I thought it would be fun to do, my poor Ramana book here is, I got this in India so many years ago and it's just absolutely falling apart. They don't really bind them that well, so anyway. I thought I would just start out, let's start with talks with Sri Ramana Maharishi, Volume 1. These talks were done the 15th. This was from the 15th of May, 1935. So let's go through and maybe I can shed a little light on some of these things. But I'll go ahead and read this one and see if people enjoy it. If you don't, if you enjoy it, I could maybe do some more of these. If you don't enjoy it, it can go by the wayside. Okay. A wandering monk, a sannyasi, was trying to clear his doubt, how to realize that all the world is God. Maharishi said, if you make your outlook that of wisdom, you will find the world to be God. Without knowing the Supreme Spirit, or Brahman, how will you find his all-pervasiveness? You have to get to the root before you can understand the blossoming of it. You have to get to the first. Now, Brahman is the first projection. Parabrahman is that which is beyond that. But Brahman, and then that is creator that makes all the expression through Shakti of the phenomenal world. Okay. So he's saying, you need to get to the first projection. You need to get to the thing before you understand the rest of this projection that's going on. Let's go forward. Someone inquired about the nature of perception. Excuse me, I'm going to put on my glasses. The light's a bit dim in here. So, the joy of physical bodies. Okay. So let's do this again. Someone inquired about the nature of perception. Whatever state one is in, the perceptions partake of that state. Okay? The perceptions partake of that state. So you're going to see through the lens. If you're wearing a colored glass and you're seeing the world in some perception, that's the way you're going to view things. That's the way that things are going to evolve. That's the way you're going to adjudge it, depending on the lens color that you are having. If you see things in rosy terms, you'll see things in rosy terms. Rosy glass, you're wearing rosy glasses. If you're wearing it in a dim gray, you're going to see things according to that perception. So let's go forward. The explanation is that in the waking state, Jagrat, the gross body perceives gross names and forms. Okay, he's talking about also which is the state of consciousness that you're in. Okay. Jagrat, gross body, gross forms. You're going to see this world as solid, immutable. Okay. That's the real, the solid. Okay. Let's go forward. In Swapna, the dream state, The mental body perceives the mental creations in their manifold forms and names. Okay, if you're in dream state, you'll still see all of these forms, but they are not this gross. It's a little more, it's a little lighter than the gross forms. Okay, in Shushupti, deep dreamless sleep, the identification with the body being lost, there are no perceptions. Okay, and this is what happens in realization. There are no dream states after that. One just goes into this deep state. When you go to sleep, it's that deep state. Okay, the deep dreamless sleep from that point. Now on the journey, you'll go into this point of where the dreams are very lucid dreams, and you can transition things through that dream state, experience all sorts of things. But when the falling away happens, then you go into just that deep sleep. When you get to sleep, it's without any sort of projection. Okay. Let's continue forward. Similarly, in the transcendental state, identity with Brahman places the man in harmony with everything, and there is nothing apart from his self. Now he's talking about self, he's not talking about ego. He's seeing that all things are a projection of Brahman through Shakti, through this energy, and there everything has that interconnection. And that's what people experience when they have this first blossoming with the heart opening, and you have God realization, Brahman, God. If you're seeing Krishna, if you're a Krishna devotee, everything will be part and parcel of Krishna. You'll have this awareness. Okay. And it's a very blissful time with that first opening. And I think that's what a lot of these satsang sellers, they're resting in that. They've had that first blossoming and opening, and that's kind of where they're remaining, in that oneness. That's the state of oneness, sort of like one. Everything is part and parcel of this singular. Okay. Number 3, a question was asked as to the nature of happiness. Maharishi says, if a man thinks that his happiness is due to external causes and his possessions, it's reasonable to conclude that his happiness must increase with the increase of possessions and diminish in proportion to their diminution. Therefore, if he is devoid of possessions, his happiness should be nil. What is the real experience of man? Does it conform to this view? Not really. You see people, these wealthy people, they're not happy. They have a hole, an endless hole, and no amount of goods is going to fill that hole. Same thing, you see these ones that are comedians. How many of these comedians wind up taking their own life? They're wearing a mask. They've got name, they've got fame, they've got money, they've got following. People think they should be happy, but they're not. There's a hole. And that hole, H-O-L-E, cannot be filled by name, fame, glory, money. Not until you come to know who and what you are and what you are not. No amount of possessions or name or fame is going to aid you. Okay, they're not going to aid you at all. Let's see. It says, in deep sleep, the man is devoid of possessions, including his own body. Instead of being unhappy, he's quite happy. Everyone desires to sleep soundly. The conclusion is that happiness is inherent in man and not due to external causes. One must realize self, that eternal is, in order to open the store of unalloyed happiness. Okay. Again, when everything deconstructs and the only thing that's remaining is that great divine is, and one awakens to the fact that their whole life has been a soap opera of all these little segmented stories that one has run around a transient temporal form. When that deconstructs and one finds, I am that is. I have never been born. I have never died. I am that eternal. That eternal is part and parcel of this being. Then all stills, all the baggage falls away as if it never were. And one has opened into that awareness of Advaita, the consciousness of Advaita, non-occluded seeing, non-occluded being, that purity of that divine is that allows for all creation to take place. Okay. It's not touched by any of the happenings. All the things that the body temporal form went through have not touched that one iota. It remains as pure as ever. No matter what takes place in a physical transient form, it does not touch this grand is, this divine is. It is always pure, undefiled. So let's continue forward. Number 4, Maharishi was asked by an educated young man, how do you say that the heart is on the right, whereas biologists have found it to be on the left? The man asked for authority. By what reason do you say this? Okay? It's well known it's on the left. How can you say it's on the right? Maharishi says, quite so. The physical organ is on the left. That's not denied. But the heart of which I speak is non-physical and is on the right side. It is that place to where you point. If you point, even I am left-handed, you always point here. And that's where that heart center is. That non-physical heart center. Okay. It is my experience. No authority is required by me. It's like people that want to ask about realization. Well, prove it. It's not provable by limited means of the world of duality. It is not provable. But it is known with every fiber of being that this is truth. Okay? Believe it or not, I don't care. It doesn't change the truth of it, the liberating quality of it. So let's go forward. It is my experience. No authority is required by me. Still, you can find confirmation in the Malayalam Ayurvedic book and in Sita Upanishad. And he produced the quotation, the mantra, from the latter and repeated the text sloka from the former. Okay. So again, this is like what I speak of, and I say you can find these confirmation in these texts. Tripura Rahasya, if you want to know the levels and layers of moksha. What is true moksha? What is the consciousness like in realization? Tripura Rahasya has that very well documented on what it is and what it's not. Like when the great falling away happened here, my guru said, that's the Ashtavakra Gita. I go, what's that? I had no idea at that time. I've never read it. I'd never read any non-dual texts up to that point. Never. And once you open it, when one is in that direct consciousness, you go, yes, 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 yes. This is it, yes, this is. It's not something one's trying to cognize, put into place, rationally, logically deduce how that could be. It's like reading a kindergarten book. Pure and simple, yes, 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 yes. So let's go forward. Ashtavakra and the Vivekchudamani, both of those, if one has entered realization, deconstructed into that great is, if you pick those up and read them, at that point, everything is known that this is yes, this is exactly what is. This is exactly as it is. Because you've shifted from that consciousness of duality, you have shifted to that consciousness of Advaita. So those texts make total sense. Whereas the world of duality now is like, what? So let's go forward. Number 5. Mr. M. Friedman, an engineer, remarked on the subject of grace. A salt doll diving into the sea will not be protected by a waterproof coat. It was a very happy simile and was applauded as such. Maharishi added, the body is the waterproof coat. The body is not going to save you when you dissolve into that ocean of is. Okay. Just as that waterproof coat did not save the salt doll. When it went into the ocean, what happens to salt? You get it in water. Okay. No amount of body. When you get to realization that body consciousness is gone and that all of that consciousness within is like, the body's a vehicle, that's all. Nothing more. Okay. Continuing forward, number 6. A question was asked by a monk, a sannyasi, how to prevent the mind from being distracted. Maharishi says, you see the objects on forgetting your own self. Okay. In other words, in looking at the world of duality, you're missing that grand is. If you keep hold of yourself, you will not see the objective world. Once you are divested of that world of ignorance, of duality, that grand is apparent. And then you no longer are seeing that world of diversity as being this concrete divisionary thing. There's been a shift in consciousness that takes place. It's not that one can try to, like some of these satsang sellers, trying to repeat this mantra of it's only is, it's only is, it's only that, it's only that, I'm only, it's not that. Once it's deconstructed and one becomes aware of that is, rather than being locked into this diversity, then that is what is apparent from that moment forward. Okay. So continuing on. 7. When asked if occult power cities can be achieved along with omnipotence, Ishvarata, Ratva, as mentioned in the last verse of Dakshinamurti Ashtakam, Maharishi said, let omnipotence, Ishvarata, be accomplished first, and then the other question may be raised. Okay. Let omnipotence be accomplished first. Get there, and then you'll see. In other words, these city powers arise. Okay? So why is he asking about these cities? Cities come in a Kundalini journey. Okay? But that's not it. When one gets to that Ishvara and one gets to that point of omnipotence, that great falling away, cities are the last thing. Cities are a construct, okay, of ego. Cities are a construct of ego. They can be stumbling blocks along the way. They are learning tools to find out what is valid, what is not. You may have all these cities' powers, but they're not moksha. And once you have moksha, of what use are they? What do you care? Okay? They fall away. These are not needed. These are not gravitated to. These are nothing. Okay? They're shadow play. Shadow play in the world of the transient. They only mean something to ego, which is trying to protect, control, change. Okay? When one is that grand divine is, the heart of all these happenings, of what use is a city? Of what value does it have any longer? Okay? Continuing forward. One only needs cities when there's feelings of lack. Okay. When that lack goes away, a city for what? Okay. Number 8. Can anyone get benefit by repeating sacred syllables, mantras that you pick up casually? I've read this in a book and I'm going to do it. Okay, it's a mantra. I'm going to use it. Maharishi says no. Okay, point blank. No. He must be competent and initiated in such mantras. Maharishi illustrated this by the following story. A king visited his premier in his residence. There he was told that the premier was engaged in repetition of sacred syllables. He was doing japa. Okay. There are so many types of japa. Okay. So, I've met many, well, I'll just leave that for now. The king waited for him, and on meeting him asked what the japa was. The premier said that it was the holiest of all, the Gayatri mantra. Om Bhur-Bhuvah-Swaha Tat-Savitur-Varenyam Bhagodavashidhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om. The king desired to be initiated by the premier, but the premier confessed his inability to initiate him. Therefore, the king learned it from someone else. And meeting the minister later, he repeated the Gayatri and wanted to know, is this right? The minister said the mantra was correct, but it's not proper for him to say it. When pressed for an explanation, the minister called to a page close by and ordered him to take hold of the king. The order was not obeyed. The order was often repeated and still not obeyed. The king flew into a rage and ordered the same man to hold the minister, and it was immediately done. The minister laughed and said that the incident was the explanation required by the king. How? Said the king. The minister replied, the order was the same, and the executor also, but the authority was different. When I ordered, the effect was nil, whereas when you ordered, there was an immediate effect. Similarly with mantras. Okay. Number 9. Someone inquired, why is it said in scriptures that the sage is like a child? And this is so true. A child and a sage or a jnani are similar in a way. Incidents interest a child only so long as they last. It ceases to think of them after they've passed away. So then it is apparent they do not leave any impression on the child, and it is not affected by them mentally, and so it is with the sage. You know, people are always asking here, are you excited? I'm going to do a trip, I'm going to do something. Are you excited? No. How can I be excited when it's not even here yet? And the minute it's done, completed, it's gone, as if it never took place. For the sage, for the jnani, you are only securely in this moment. There is no other moment of time. You cannot access past, you cannot project into future. There is only this moment, this reality. The rest of it doesn't exist. So for here, making plans and this and that doesn't come into the equation. Again, you lose that excitement phase of looking forward to something. Because for the sage, that doesn't exist. That time is not here. There's no projection any longer. No reminiscing any longer. No projection any longer. Okay? So that's why they say it's like a child. You have something you're really happy with. It doesn't take a lot to make you happy sometimes. Sometimes you can be happier with the paper wrapping than you are with the gift. Like a kid, How many times has it been Christmas you bought the child expensive gift and they're more happy with the paper, the colors of the paper. It's like, wow. Like, really? It's like that. Okay. Number 10. A visitor asked how to realize oneself in accordance with Maharishi's instructions contained in his text of Truth Revealed, verse 8, supplement. The difficulty was in controlling the mind. Maharishi says, it is to be done by controlling the breath. Hence why I give the balanced breath. There is a reason for every practice that is given out here. Each practice that's given out here has a reason behind it. Balanced breath. It helps to balance the mind. It helps to bring one to a bit of more stillness where you can focus to go forward. Okay. If you practice it by yourself without other help, then the mind is controlled. Otherwise, the mind comes under control spontaneously in the presence of a superior power. Again, let me read that again. Otherwise, the mind comes under control spontaneously in the presence of a superior power. Such is the greatness of association with the wise, or satsanga. This is why what happens when students come into the presence of a realized master guru, the mind stills without effort. There is a stilling, a centering that can take place because of the power that is here, is within that centered place. This is also why I say it's not good to get Reiki done and these energetic things by someone that's not realized. The guru, the realized master, the realized being, is always in a grounded, centered state. Therefore, the energy that is done, that is given, is grounded. It helps to still you. It helps to center you. It helps to release some of these dramas that you have going so you can see them and question them more deeply. Okay? There are reasons that these things take place. And you will find that they are validated if you just but look. Okay, 11. Can destiny, karma, ever come to an end? Maharishi, the karmas carry the seeds of their own destruction in themselves. Once one has passed through that, rectified it, then that's the end of that. Okay. Karmas allow this experience to come again and again and again and again until you rectify it, until you make peace with it, until you can, learn the lesson. Then it's done, it's over, it's finished. Okay. 12. A man asked the Maharishi to say something to him. When he asked what he wanted to know, he said that he knew nothing and wanted to hear something from the Maharishi. Maharishi says, you know that you know nothing. Okay. Find out that knowledge. That's liberation. Okay. I don't think it's going to help that guy. He's going to be in a bender at that point. But everything deconstructs. There's nothing to know, nothing to get. It's prior to knowledge, so-called knowledge of the world of duality. Prior to that is the great zero. Okay, that which gives value to everything, yet within itself is empty. That's what he's referring to. And that's liberation. Once you've let go of all this constructed drama that you think you know. And that's what happens in realization. In 1 second, everything is known and everything is washed clean. Everything you thought you knew, washed out. So much for that. And so that's the end of the satsang that took place with Maharishi on the 15th of May, 1935. I hope that this is somehow expanded a bit on that to give you a little more understanding. If it's aided, let me know. If it hasn't, let me know. Okay. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful Monday, March 11th. See you online. Namaste and aho.